All right, welcome everybody to another episode of West Coast Street Knowledge. I am your host, Gil, aka the American Cholo. I got my homie Boo Boo right here. I got the co-host Sonny Boy in the house. And today we have a very special guest. Please introduce yourself.
I go by the name of MC PANCHO, and I just want to thank you three for having me here. I love what you do. I support what you do, and I watch you guys on a regular.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, brother.
Thank you.
Sure. So, a lot of people.
Wait, quick. Yeah. Is this the first time you ever heard his voice?
No, I hear all three of your voices quite a bit.
Yeah.
So let's give people a little bit of a history about yourself, man. Where did you grow up from? What area did you come from LA and all that good stuff?
I come from the Harbor area, and I come from a city called San Pedro. I'm right there. I'm still there. My parents were from there, and born and raised right there. I'm still on that block.
So you grew up in Pedro. Were your parents born there, or where were your parents from?
Yeah. My parents are. My mom's from that block that I'm from. I live on 3rd Street. My grandmother owned 5 houses on that block.
The same gang?
So,
The same gang?
That's the neighborhood. Yeah, that's the neighborhood.
But to you, it wasn't even a gang.
It's something you're born into. When people bring up the term gang, because I've done quite a few interviews. And
okay.
Like, so tell me how long you've been gangbanging. I always go around that question because I was born into a neighborhood, where my mother was from, and my father as well.
Well, I saw that picture of you and your mom, and I saw her giving it up.
Yeah. My mom threw it up until until she passed. Yeah.
So but you've got we'll get to you got real famous in the Chicano community out here in LA during the '90s, during your little rap career, and we'll get to that. But I think you have such a story in the beginning, man, of how you became who you are now today as a person, and I want to sit here and talk about your younger years growing up. How was it when you were like, let's say, junior high? Was it you, your mom, your dad, or?
No, my father passed away when I was 8 of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. So from there on, my father was diagnosed with ALS. During that time, it was rare. It was a very rare. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That was what a lot of people are getting more aware of it due to that ice challenge, the bucket.
Yeah,
people were doing that.
What that was for?
So when it brought awareness to that. So back then, we're going back to 1978. Not too many people knew what that was. So my dad was diagnosed. He went within a year. Now people are living a little bit longer. And my brother, I had a brother, and he passed away 9 months before my father did of a heroin overdose. Oh, wow. So from that point on, it was just me and my mom.
Yeah.
And is your brother was also from the same area?
Yes.
Wow.
Definitely.
So how were you too young to really know the effects of losing your father and your brother at that age, and where did it kind of really hit you?
Not when you have a strong mother that plays that role. You know what I mean? When you have a strong mother that played the brother, played the father, and did all that, no. So I'll be honest with you. I lost my mother in 2006. I was fortunate to have her till 2006.
Right.
And then I really missed my brother and my dad. You know what I mean? But during that whole period of growing up, she made up for that.
Wow, she carried that load pretty much.
Yeah,
huh?
she did.
She's a good woman.
Yeah. Your mother reminds me a lot of my mother, and I heard you say one thing, and I'm like, the mom was the same way. My mom was gangster, man. My mom was.
I know. I heard your story. Yeah, I know
right?
your story.
And
I
relate to that. They stepped up, and people think sometimes they're crude, mean, this and that, but no, they were just trying to.
They had to, otherwise we'd be little wusses.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So she had to be, and then those were her exact words. I had to do that to make you strong.
And the time you grew up in, to be a kid that had no father or no brother, you had just pretty much the neighborhood and.
Pretty much. Like I said, I had a strong mother, and I hear a lot of people that would use that term. Well, I chose this life because I didn't have a man around the house, and I always said, well, I didn't either. You know what I mean? And you look at me now.
The life chose you.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, when it comes to you, Pancho, they look at you, brother, and they stereotype you.
Oh, I get that. I get that quite a bit.
And when, to me, the great thing is that it's great when I see people thinking they're stereotyping, thinking they know what kind of person you are. But in reality, you're the original American Cholo, homeboy.
And I am a Cholo. I identify with that word. I identify with it.
Hey, brother, I got my shirt out today.
I buttoned the top.
Combed his hair.
I combed my hair.
He combed his hair.
I said, no. We got MC PANCHO covered, brother.
Brushed his teeth and everything.
This guy knows how to dress. He's fly. He's a Cholo. And one thing that I've always respected about you also was that you never hid from that, man. You've always embraced it, and you still.
Like I said, I don't forget where I came from. I'm still there. I'm still on that block.
That's right. So how long you been living on that block now?
Well, I'm 49 years old.
Oh, shit. So you've been there all this time, huh?
Yes.
So how many homies have you seen come through either get locked up in prison for outrageous amount of time, drug habits, lose their lives. I mean, on and on
Oh
and on.
God, Gil, I couldn't even tell you. I ran out of because back then the '90s were very, very active,
Yeah.
very everywhere.
That's correct.
And I survived the '90s, and I had a photo album where I started keeping like flyers for the car washes that we had for homies that passed. I ran out of room, and it was a thick one like that.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Senseless. Some
Yeah.
were in the game and some weren't. Just wrong place, wrong time. Going to work. In the morning, and
Got
I know
busted.
quite a few that didn't have that coming. They didn't.
Right. And I think it's the same in every neighborhood, because I saw you do that. I saw you do that interview with Tony Vision. Shout out to Tony, great
yeah,
great
shout out to
podcast.
Tony, yeah.
And he's grew up in Wilmington.
Right.
And what people don't understand is, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when that was going on, you're not gonna see a guy from Pedro and a guy from Wilmington, whether they're gangbangers or not. They're really not gonna.
Right. Those we're always been rivals, but the way I tie in, and because I represent the whole harbor area, so I did these mixtapes when I was 18.
Okay.
And the mixtapes are titled "The Harbor Area Sounds." It was a takeoff on like the East Side Story.
Right.
So I did something for my area, and I represented every city on that. So that's why I never played the Pedro Wilmington. Not to mention, my dad was responsible for a truce between Wilmington and Pedro back in the 50s.
That's right.
So my dad was a big,
So they have a lot of. I know, like my dad was from Maravilla.
Okay.
And I've always had respect for him because where he was from. So it's kind of conflict with, nowadays with Maravilla.
Right.
But I've always had respect for him, and that's because my father. So I know that has a big impression on you, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. Definitely.
So that means that beef with Pedro and Wilmington, I mean, going back that far, huh?
Yes, yes. I couldn't tell you where it started, but my dad was the 50s era. I want to say 1955, 56. They had a big
Is that your father, the one that you sent me that picture in the trolley car?
Yes,
guy,
yeah, the Pachuco. Yeah, my dad was a Pachuco. Right.
That's
right.
what you come from, a long line history of Pachuco, Cholo,
yeah.
the whole lifestyle, brother.
Yes. Yes, I do.
So tell me, when did you when did you get started in music? How did that come about?
Oh God, I mean, it could honestly, if we trace it, it could go back to I think when I was 4 or 5.
Okay.
My mom, instead of wanting a toy, I would ask for a record. So it was like, hey mom, if I'm good, can you get me a record? So we had a little deal going.
Right.
Yeah.
And then later on that developed in, hey mom, can you give me a Pendleton? And that's the truth. We'll get into that, but. The music was the thing. I had a little turntable, which was a Mickey Mouse turntable. It was like a briefcase,
Right.
And
I
the arm,
actually remember those.
and the arm was the needle, his hand. Like
I
Mickey
had
Mouse
one when I was
is.
a kid, yeah.
It was a blue and white one,
Same age.
and it closed up. Yeah,
Same age.
Yeah,
group.
okay.
Right.
So I used to bump music, and I mean, music was a passion. It was a love, So that's where it started, actually, right there.
And then when did you actually start taking it? I mean, I would think by the time you're doing those rap songs now, you're taking it somewhat serious, or was it more of a hobby to you? How was it?
I decided to going back to these tapes, the Harbor Area Sounds. I made them for. I just started working, so I was 18 at the time.
Okay.
And I met a friend, his daughter. She was handicapped, and I wanted to do something for her so bad. She had a seizure, and when she came out of the seizure, her brain wasn't, developing right.
Right.
She wasn't, she was paralyzed, and she just won my heart. So I said, what could I do for this little girl? So I created a cassette called The Harbor Area Sounds, and I dedicated it to her. And all the money that I made off of that cassette went into a trust fund for her.
Oh, that's right.
And then I never planned on doing volume 2, volume 3. It went up to 30 volumes.
Wow.
And so people that would buy them, all the money went to her. And then people were like, "Wait, what's up with number 2, number 3, And I'm like, all right.
So
I started
it
putting them out.
was a demand of people wanting to hear.
It was a lot, yeah. Because I mean, I was representing. It was in my area, but then they traveled.
It
They
grew out.
traveled.
I heard some of those tapes.
Yeah,
You
no,
had the Zap beats in them and all that stuff.
Right. They traveled. You know what I mean? So, that was the inspiration. I can say that little girl, Hope, her name was Hope. Well, she's still alive, Hope Sumaran. And she was the inspiration of that, of doing those cassettes.
Nice.
Wow, dude.
Mixtapes.
That's a beautiful story. Now, let me ask you, when you said you started working at 18, I heard a story about that. What do you do for a living?
I'm a longshoreman. I'm a union worker. I've been doing that as a dock worker. Going on 32 years.
Wow, dude. Congratulations,
Thank
brother.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's a feat alone.
And-
I know
Thank
people
you.
alongside me.
Thank you.
And that's what a lot of people, when I say they stereotype you, they don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's a career. A guy's been doing it for 30 some years. You're doing something right, brother.
You can bang with anybody.
Well, my father was one, And when he passed away, of course, I was 8 years old. So what they did was, as long as my mother didn't remarry, and I was still sole supporter of the family, 10 years later, I became 18. I was eligible. So that's how I came in. So a lot of people that know Longshoreman is like who you know, etc.
Right.
It wasn't a who you know thing. I tell people, I go, I lost my father for this job, and my brother, because my brother would have been the next one to step up.
That's right.
So I go, I had two of them that gave up their lives for me to have what I have now, and that's how I look at it.
Wow, that's a great way to look at it. Yeah. Let me ask you, as far as is that law still in effect in the books in the union? If somebody loses their father, like if you had a son or something, would that still?
As long as my wife doesn't remarry and that's sole support of the
that's
family,
still there.
That's the whole purpose of it. That's
cool,
the whole
man.
purpose.
That's
yeah.
a good
Can you
get down.
adopt me?
Huh?
Can you adopt me?
Actually, yeah, I could. Yes, I could.
Well, then you gotta
Yeah, technically, we can.
So, talking a little bit on the docks, what's your take on the automation? Do you think that eventually, maybe not in your generation, but in the next 10, 20 years, that a lot of your guys' jobs are going to be taken away?
It's already there. It's already started.
And it's coming, right?
I never thought I'd see it, but yeah, I mean, it started already. There's automated docks already that are doing that, and it's going to take a hurt. I mean, I don't have the years to retire yet. I think I got to give them another 15. I think.
Wow, why? Because of the age?
The age.
Really?
The age, yeah.
I actually heard they had a report, story about it the other day about the unions complaining because of the automation.
Yeah, they were trying to slow down. They were trying to slow the vote, but I think eventually
we can't stop it.
Right?
I mean, it's here. It's here.
It's technology coming in, and that's
Yeah.
it's good for YouTube. It's good for.
I mean, I seen a toilet. I don't know if you guys seen that toilet that Kohler's putting out. It's like a robot toilet. I don't know if it wipes your ass or what it does. Yeah, it was on Channel 5, and then there's another one that cooks. It's like a robot that cooks.
He can use that one.
They
Cooking
might have,
one, taking the dump.
So
they have one with the vacuum and mopping your floors. And they would have put hands on it to wash your dishes.
Well, I thought about you. I thought about you yesterday. I went to. I was thinking about questions and all that stuff, and I went to Home Depot to go buy some paint for that sign we're painting, right? And I go to Home Depot. There wasn't one cashier. It's all automated.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah. See, that's
it's all automated. Those are jobs that everybody's gonna start losing. Union jobs they're gonna start losing. And I think a lot of people don't know that technology. It's good, but it's also a little bit of a curse.
Yeah. Exactly.
Thank Trump for that.
So what's the union doing, if anything, to try to either find guys other jobs, or is it just that it's going to just be extinct?
We're trying to create jobs. I mean, we're always trying to create jobs or hold on. In this case now, just hold on to jobs.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean, because yeah.
So hey, I've got here a couple nice magazines. That most
are these yours?
These are this gentleman right here.
I actually have a lot more. I'm not really sure whether the police impounded.
A lot of people listening to the podcast right now. I can say off the back, they're not gonna know what these are.
This was our social media back in the days. To come out in this I came out in the first teenager. I think I was 13 or 14.
Oh man!
And I saved up. You would send him because that's what he did for the inmates. He would if you send him stamps or something like that, he would put your picture in there. It was cut and paste. These are all cut and paste what you have right here. And so I remember I was a kid. I saved up a couple of stamps I gave him and a money order. I think it was $5 then, and he put my picture in there. And I'll never forget. It was a junior high picture of me, and I was next to all these hardcore dudes that were in prison, big old brochures and tattoos, and I got a smile from ear to ear.
Do you still have that issue?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll pull it out. I got a smile from ear to ear. Yeah.
Who's the guy that actually started the Teenage One? Do you know why he started?
Oh yeah, I know the whole story because
I'm
a part. Okay, all right. This is history right here.
Yeah, of course.
Teenager was started by a gentleman named Teenager. That was his nickname. He was the artist for Lowrider magazine. So he had a little section in there in Lowrider, and eventually he came out with his own issue, which is Teenager. So it was an independent magazine. Nobody knew who he was. He was very private man. And he would just go to different liquor stores and just take it to them and hand deliver it. And, do on consignment and go pick up. And people would get wind of it and be like, oh, man, it contributed to artwork, dedications, our whole culture, which really didn't have a name at that time. But it just, it went from prison to outside to everything, and to have your picture in Teenager was like something real cool, really cool. That was like your bragging rights. And then you would communicate. It was social media because you could communicate to somebody through a dedication in Teenager. You could get a message out, a wheeler out. You could tell someone you loved them through Teenager.
No, I remember we used to get pumped up and want to sit here and we got the new magazine coming out. Homies to get there and start looking at it.
Yeah.
What year was the first actual Teen Angel?
I want to say 79, 80. I know that's the birth, established 1979. But I think 79, they're going back to when he started signing Teen Angel and doing it for Lowrider. I want to say the first one I ever had in my hands was 81.
Okay.
81, 82. And I was actually short 5 issues. I think I was already up to, I caught volume 6.
How many issues did he end up making those?
Well, you have one that's is that 200 right there?
30.
30? Okay.
30.
Then they went to the alphabets. They went to like A, B, C. So I would say at least maybe 200.
Wow.
And I remember we used to go, my mom would take, this one's 196.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So, my mom would take me, we'd go on the bus, we'd catch the 446 RTD from San Pedro.
The Rough, Tough, and Dangerous?
Oh, man, we would go to downtown LA to Broadway. And those little green shacks, I don't know if you guys ever seen them, where they sell the magazines.
In Ball Heights.
Yeah, the green shacks. And that's where we would get them right there. Right there, we'd go up and down. And my mom would buy these for me.
And how old are you this time?
Oh, God, 12.
Oh, man.
Wow.
12 years old.
That's what's up, brother. That's what's up.
Yeah, we'd go up and down Broadway getting them.
So at the time, I'm sure the time you took that picture and you're a kid, you had no clue how historic. I mean, these are historic magazines.
I never thought that I would be part of this magazine because I have my own personal issue in the whole history. And I had a communication with Teen Angel. He used to send me Christmas cards.
Oh, right on.
And I never thought in the future when his sons took over that I would have a connection with them. And it all ties up to why I'm here today. Teen Angel, my wife, and a gentleman by the name of Seven from Halified Records are the 3 that are responsible for bringing me back in the game in 2008.
Well, let's talk about that. So let's go. We're gonna go to the '90s. You had your rap career going, or whatever you want to call it. You're doing your Chicano rap, your music. Then you kind of just stopped doing it, right? I
stopped doing it when CDs came because I didn't know what the hell a CD was. There was no way. I was like, how am I going to put that onto a CD?
Right.
So I stopped at over 30 mixtapes, 30 volumes.
Okay.
I had covers for them and everything. And the end of MC Pancho, I want to say was... what year did CDs come in? We want to say, 94?
Yeah.
Around 94.
Yeah, I remember I used to walk around school.
So 94, that was
Actually,
it.
a little bit before that.
So
that was just before I got busted.
So technology killed MC Pancho at the time.
Yeah, at the time.
Brother,
Yeah, from
at the time.
1988 on, I had a good run with them.
Right.
They reached different areas.
Yeah, absolutely. They hit. We got it out here in the Valley. That's for sure.
That's beautiful.
So you're kind of like Jason and Freddy Krueger, just come up after a while, right? Regenerating.
Come up with a different name. Yeah.
No. When I talked to him about MC Pancho, you know who I referred to as David Hasselhoff.
Knight Rider?
Knight Rider. For you guys who don't know about Knight Rider, he's the guy, the main character from Knight Rider.
Right.
But in Germany, he has a huge following. And with you, you reinvented yourself. And from what I've seen and heard, I mean, in Japan, you pretty much had a beautiful run out there.
Things happen and don't happen for a reason. I assume it wasn't my time back then.
Right.
And, you never say never. My story is one of those never say never.
Right, brother.
Because years later... I just lost my mother and I'm going through this grieving, of losing her. And my wife talks me into doing a CD, which was a 20-year anniversary of the mixtapes, which I didn't want to do. So I'm like, nah. So anyways, the only one that could get me in the studio was this gentleman by the name of Seven. And he got me in the studio and I'm doing songs from 1988. You know what I mean? But now I'm in the studio. I'm not doing them in my back room, how I was putting those out. So it's weird how it's like a fairy tale because there was a gentleman that was sending for Chicano rappers during that time, and this man was well respected and talked about, and different people would ask me, "Hey, have you ever heard of this guy? He's in Japan, and he had did a little stretch in the feds out here. He had his whole. I'm not saying anything that I shouldn't be saying. This man's book is out there. You could look it up. It's Mr. K. Homie Brand. So what happened was he ended up doing some time, I think about 12 years in the feds out here, not knowing a word of English, not knowing the culture or anything. And they didn't want to extradite him, send him back to Japan. He had to do his time out here because he got busted in Hawaii. So bottom line, this man was losing his mind. They had him in isolation because anybody that would approach him, he would just start taking off on them, just start hitting them. He didn't know if they're trying to take something from him or what. So I don't know how he got a letter to the embassy of Japan. And Japan got involved, And they got at the U.S. and they're like, either send this man back to Japan, we'll deal with him, or let him out. Let him out, not out of prison, out to the mainland, out to the yard. So they ended up letting this man out. They gave him one last chance. And the first ones to take him in and embrace him was, our raza, our gente. So they looked out for him. So he ended up writing a book and telling his whole story. It's all in Japanese of where he was at and what he went through and et cetera, et cetera. So now let's go back to 2008. I'm in the studio and I'm with this guy, Seven. And he's asked, he brings up this man. And I'm like, okay, yeah, a few people mentioned him to me. But, I'm not thinking that. And this isn't written,
Right.
This is not written. It sounds like a fucking written script. I ain't going to lie. It really does. But it's not. And I go, yeah, I heard about this guy. And he goes, yeah, well, he wrote a book there. So we're ready to do a song, that I had did when I was 18. Because I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to put on this CD? I'm doing my first, and people ask me, how long did it take you to do a CD? 20 years? Which it did. It really did. So I'm like, I'm in there like, what the fuck am I going to put on this damn CD? What am I going to put on this CD? And I go, okay, I'll go back to one of these songs, when I was 18. So my compadre is in there with me, and he's reading the book, and we're in the studio, and he's like, he interrupts the whole session, and he's like, hey, comp, you got to see this book. You got to see this book. And I looked at him and I said, okay, in a minute, I'm trying to do something here. So he did that over a course of 3 times. And finally we had to stop the whole everything. And it was getting frustrating. And I go, what is so important that you want me to see in this book? And he goes, there's somebody in here. And I'm like, there is? And he goes, yeah, you need to see this now.